Hi, I'm Phoebe Wilcox, and I'm a local Bucks County author. I've worked for many years on a wonderful novel entitled Angels Carry the Sun, and I would like to read a little excerpt for you. Chapter 3, Snake Charmers. Every high school has a prom queen. You know the drill. She wears a pink satin dress and matching corsage. She has a preppy king. Sometimes they arrive in limousines. It's a cookie-cutter ritual for the cookie-cutter crowd. Naomi and Flora were the school's alternative royalty. They were punk queens, kingless and uncrowned. You don't get crowns for being great bohemians. The jocks got their honors, though. That was obvious by the crammed trophy display cases to be found throughout Fairmont High. Did anybody honor Flora for her handmade tiger print skirt, an authentic turn-of-the-century blouse with the real crocheted lace? No. No one gave a crap about either that or Naomi McDougal's artistically paint-splattered sweatshirt and safety pin earrings. Ironically, the only adult in the vicinity that might have been the least bit interested in their fashion sensibilities would have been Finn's wife, Lottie. And being that she was Flora's nemesis, Flora didn't want her opinion on anything. For Naomi, the only defense against the unbearable realities of high school life was a catty attitude. As for Flora, she subsisted on imagination, mollifying herself with images like that of a mail carrier pterodactyl who would, yes, deliver a love letter to Finn's mailbox. Her primordial Jabberwocky of the shadows, flying by night, would alight at the end of Finn's driveway, folding its wings down like a huge set of webbed safety pins. It would pull the mailbox open with its beak and tenderly slide the letter in. This scenario was much more interesting to Flora than staring at her algebra teacher's jowls. And if it made her feel better about not getting a trophy for her tiger skirt, then so be it. One morning in her sophomore year, she raced, freshly showered from gym class, heart thudding with anticipation, to Finn's room, hoping to catch him during his free period. He usually spent all of third puttering around his room, erasing the blackboard or grading compositions. This morning the door was shut and locked. She moved her nose close to the window in the door and peered in. The room was dark, deserted. She had a sudden impulse to walk back down the hall and heave her algebra text through the trophy display case, right through all those stupid little gold statues. She wanted an explanation. She especially wanted the scoop on the chick she'd seen him with in the hall before homeroom. "Phooey," she blurted. The image of them making out hot and heavy in a janitor's closet swooped, bird-like, into her head. She wasn't used to jealousy. Sure, Finn was married, but she'd come upon the notion that marriage wasn't necessarily a big obstacle for lovers. It was more like an aphrodisiac. An attractive younger woman is a completely different species from a wife of 15 years. The girl was a preppy, probably just some alumna home from college, stopping by for a visit during her Thanksgiving break. But Flora didn't like the way she and Finn walked down the hall together, so intimately close under the fluorescent lights. She was completely unlike Flora, no hippie clothes for her. Flora couldn't help glancing down at her own gray cords, scorched from drying on the wooden rack by the wood stove, and her gauze India import blouse with the unraveling hem. No, this girl was pure Vogue, wearing the height of fashion, a tweed miniskirt with a side slit, kind of slutty academic, you could say, with a snug black sweater, red nail polish, and not a hair out of place. Not every hair out of place, like Flora's. And of course her hair was blonde. Finn had inclined his face to hers as they walked, as hers was upturned to his. and they'd created an orb of privacy in the crowded hall. Flora sat with her back against the classroom door and wondered whether Finn had read her most recent love note or not, the one with the totally obvious Freudian sex dream in it. There was an Indian snake charmer who wore a turban and played a flute, and conveniently serving the purpose of any anxiety dream, she lay way too close to his basket, naked and completely paralyzed. The charmer disentangled one of the snakes from the writhing mass in the basket and placed it alongside her body. The creature immediately slithered around the contour of her hip and up and over, its head coming to rest, oh God, the horror, right beneath her breasts. Somehow, in the bizarre matter-of-fact way of dreaming, she was aware that her eyes were blue like Alice's, and everything she saw was blue, as if the color of her eyes filtered all her vision to blue. A pattern like argyle replicated itself along the snake's length, and occasionally a twitch of muscle would bulge outward or deflate inward, a formation of sky-colored scales. In that blue world, only one thing differed. The snake's tongue was a menacing flicker of scarlet. That tongue wavered in and out of that snake's triangular poisonous head, taunting like inexorable destiny itself, while she lay there, frozen, disarmed, robbed even of her voice. Flora hoped that somehow her note might distract Finn from that annoying apotheosis of blonde, vogue girl. When she caught up with Finn later, Flora braced herself for the worst. "Who's the baby Farrah Fawcett?" "Oh, that's just Isabel," he told her. She hovered by his desk as the last bell of the day faded away. "And?" she probed. His eyes were apologetic, as though he owed her an explanation. "She was after me for years. I wasn't interested, and she couldn't accept it. Finally, I told her I'd speak to her parents unless she put a sock in it. She backed off pretty fast. She told me I'd change my mind," he continued, "but I just told her she would too. I thought she was going to slap me. Somebody ought to do it. Oh, go home, you little miscreant. If I must. Or I could take you with me, but your mom wouldn't appreciate that." He turned to face her before making his way to the red letters spelling exit over the door. She stared at his wedding band. Fool's gold. "I'll see you tomorrow then," he said softly. A black lock of hair hung over his eye, his gaze hooked on hers. They hovered together like parentheses, sharing something secret. She didn't say anything, just shot out the door to her bus like an arrow sent from Cupid's bow, with momentum but no target. She had the feeling that the prey was already down.